Welcome everyone to another great session of the One Earth Live Visionary Speakers Series. And today I have the great honor and pleasure of having a fireside chat with Chief Phil Lane. Chief Phil Lane has been an amazing advocate of Indigenous rights and supporting Indigenous people across the world. He's devoted his life to this, and he's amazing, amazing being of love and generosity. So great to have you here, Chief Phil Lane.
Well, Chris, it's a great honor to be here. And also over the years, I've been so admired the work of Uplift and the great gatherings you've had and the great videos you've made to uplift human consciousness at this very, very, very incredible time we're living in.
Thank you so much. It's definitely an incredible time, and you know it's easy to focus in on what's breaking down right now, because you know even before we had this incredible COVID moment, we had the news was filled with climate change and you know systems collapse on every level.
Yes.
But what for you? What are you seeing is actually breaking through now for humanity?
Well, you know, for me, on one hand, I can hear the death cries of an old, outworn paradigm dying away as it has throughout life of this universe. It's just part of the natural process. At the same time, we can hear the birth cries of the new everywhere. And just the fact we're sitting here as our elders prophesied back in 1975, of course, this was known by some people, by us, we didn't know this everywhere spirit would enable us to do exactly what they told it would do. And that is, here you are on the other side of Mother Earth, and here I am here, and we're speaking directly to each other. And they said this would be, and they said everything would happen. So I think one thing we can see is we have the capabilities, capacities digitally, first of all, to reconnect. And I would call this, compared to other ways we have in the past dealt with challenge or oppression or injustice. Of course, there's been that dimension where we just simply assimilate. We give up. We assimilate. At the same time, there's another part which we don't assimilate, we don't move, we just simply resign. Resignation. We just fall into alcohol, drugs, whatever. The pain is too much. And of course, the other way we know throughout history is conflict. You know, we fight. Now we can see that this cycle has gone on, you know, over and over again. And so the thing is, we know at this point that hopefully we've learned that conflict is not going to take us to the place the prophecies promise, and that is to come together and understand the prior unity and oneness of our human family. We are one human family. Scientifically and spiritually, we know that to be true. 99.9% identical except for minor genetic differences, skin color, height, weight, hair, eye color, etc. But essentially, as far as who we are, even physiologically, but spiritually, that dimension of ourself, that we would say Nari in Dakota, but the soul of who we are, that part of us that a knife can't cut, water can't wet, wind can't dry. It's beyond thought. It's that space between the thoughts that opens to the field. And that from that we emerge. And we can see just like from childhood, we can see just like from infancy as a person to childhood to adulthood and now as an elder. And then they say from childhood to childhood is that cycle. And so we can see that humanity has been making the same journey. And now is the time we're coming to our spiritual adulthood, our spiritual maturity on this Mother Earth. We're finally beginning to understand that we are spiritual beings in our essence. Yes, we have a physical dimension, obviously, but the real essence of this journey is a spiritual journey to grow, become more the essence of this is spiritual to become more loving, kind. Anyway, stop right there. I went on a long ways there, Chris. So just take what's of anything and leave the rest. Please, next question.
Well, that was amazing. I was deep in that, and that's so true. We're on this spiritual moment now, and what do you think this big reset of everybody going into shelter in place, and what has that for you? What has happened? What's the feelings that are coming up, and what have you seen within your community?
Well, I can just say personally for myself, the old paradigm is we need to travel here and there and talk to people here and there. And so I got to thinking as I've been sitting here, and it seems like for me at 75, it's a great sorrow and sadness to see the loss of all our relatives and the suffering of all the families. On the other hand, what it's done for me is to have me pause. And my father always told me, he said, son, there's a rhythm of life. You have to become in balance with the rhythm. And that is the tides go out and they come in, but they also go out. So, so there's the expansion and consolidation. Expansion and consolidation. So I see this as a consolidation process right now. We've expanded so far, going, and now we're having to stop. Now, for some relatives, the habits we have formed will be too much to break out of at this moment. Some are breaking out of it. Some will break partly out of it. But we can see this urge to, and it's very understandable, of survival, of saying, okay, if I can't work, I'm going to my family's going to suffer and possibly die. Therefore, there's that movement for the economic side. And there's a struggle for the economic versus the spiritual. And the question really comes to me, why are we living in a society, in a civilization where that question even has to be asked? With the riches and wealth we have on Mother Earth, there's certainly enough to take care of this time we're going through. And yet, we're not going to get to that through legislation and law. It's going to be the solution to economic problems before us is a spiritual solution. That is the transformation of hearts. So if I'm sitting and I have tremendous amounts of wealth, and I have all these lawyers at my disposal, and have all these things around me to protect my money, because that's the most important thing in my life is my money. When that changes, and those that have those resources, I've been gifted with those resources, I'm going to say, just a minute, how can I be happy when I understand that the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the poverty of one is the poverty of all? So we have to find a way to come to a balancing of the extremes of wealth and poverty. The extremes. It's not about, but there are, I think, certain, like every human being, just as a human being is a sacred being, has a right to clean water. Just basics to educate, because each one of us have a gift, and to lose that gift is losing a gift for all of humanity. So there's basics. At the same time, there's also, we know that we don't need to have 5 houses. They're way bigger each one than we could ever fill with their entire family, or even 5 families. So I think that's going to take an interchange, and that's going to take us demonstrating that it's possible to live in this way and be happy and joyful. Not to be groaning and moaning, oh, I have to cut, but to enjoy it, to enjoy the simplicity the Creator has given us to live in our lives. Even our relationship with animals, we should be learning about. And then it's the kindness and gentleness that we need to treat our animal relatives, and we really consider, how sustainable, slaughtering 60 billion animals every year, I mean, if we think about it, that looks real nice on the plate, but what goes on before it gets to our plate is pretty horrendous. So all these things I think we're going to have to consider.
True. Yeah, I think this moment of reflection has, just to see the Mother Nature and Mother Earth just come back with such a regenerative power. just to show the potential of this beauty of this great planet we live in, and how quickly when we just slow down, and we haven't really slowed down incredibly that much. I mean, well, we have slowed, I mean, but just that little bit of slowing down for these few months. I mean, it's only really been since March, really, you think about it. But wow, what an incredible regeneration that's happened. All the turtles that have come back, the blue skies that have come back. It's amazing, really. So yeah, I really hope that some of these new technological pathways and this new, like you were saying, this opening of the heart and this deepening of the heart of humanity can just really blossom into a new pathway, so we don't go back to business as usual. So, and you work a lot with the indigenous nations around the world. So what's coming through the indigenous at the moment, through the First Nation people? What's Mother Earth telling us right now?
Well, if we look, just looking across the Americas, in the prophecies that go back prior to the arrival of other relatives here. And I think that in terms of 1492, this was inevitable. I mean, the world is round. It's round. Despite a few centuries that some relatives believed this was flat. It's round. So inevitably, we would have come together here. And I think that, the prophecies were very clear that this would happen, and there would be a long winter time. And at the same time, at the end of this over 500-year wintertime, there would be a great spiritual springtime that would arise. And this is that time. And I really believe that indigenous people, from what I'm hearing, they're understanding that this is a built-in, foolproof protection of Mother Earth, you might say, this little unseeable relative that's taking the whole world down. Now, however you think it started, where it started, the fact is right now that we have huge numbers of relatives around Mother Earth unemployed. We have many relatives that already were starving. We had almost 2 billion people without enough to eat, but even more so now, they're calculating a good 500 million more relatives could go back into destitute poverty because of this. So the whole world is going to have to reassess this, because as this gets further and further down, and it's great that we're pulling this. The U.S. by itself is considering another $2 trillion worth of resources to put into the economy. At the same time, where is this coming from? Where's all this money coming from when we're already in unpayable debt? We're just simply in deeper and deeper unpayable debt. So I think that it's up to us as a human. It's up to us as a human family in terms of how long this suffering goes on. If we choose to understand we're one human family, and the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor of one is the honor of all, we'll get through this much quicker and faster. If we see instead my group against your group, or my nation against your nation, not going to work. We can see what that viewpoint has done if we just look back over the last 500 years. There's never been hardly a moment of peace until now.
Yes, the us and them. We have to. That's that very illusionary barrier has to be.
Yes.
That's one of the core principles I think we have to embody now, is that there is no us and them, and that has been an interesting thing about this. I like the way you called it a relative. Like the coronavirus is almost like coming in and giving us this, definitely this deep moment of despair and contraction. There's no doubt, and fear. But it's also giving us this moment to reflect. I mean, like, when an organism is unwell, when we're unwell personally, we take time to rest and, reflect and take care of our immune systems and regenerate ourselves. And I think that's sort of what's happening. And I hope, the hope is, which we're definitely feeling, I think there's in our communities, we're feeling it. And I'm hoping that it's a global feeling that will build with humanity, this new momentum, if you like, of there is no us and them. We're all in this together.
Exactly.
And we need to move together with this new knowledge, with this new feeling, with this new embodiment of this principle, that we are one And that's the truth, and that's what you've so beautifully said as well. Chief Elaine, what's been, I know you're involved with so many amazing projects, and what's exciting for you at the moment? What's your next journey taking you?
Well, when this virus began to strike, and we were aware of this in early January, it became clear that the digital world was really where we need to move to. Not that we're going to have to stay there, or personal contact's not important, but in terms of a lot of things now, they're moving that way. And so what we've really have been exploring is how can we take and utilize the digital world to share our gifts of talking, sharing, and healing circles. So that's one work we're doing now. We have this 4 Rows program for talking circle leadership. And that's based on these 2 elders that shared with us the talking circle over 45 years ago. So it's based on 45 years of working with these elders' guidance on how to bring people together in a way that they can share their feelings in a respectful and good way. So we have about, I guess, 280 students. Of course, not all of them are there every session, but they're really deepening themselves in how to facilitate, how to lead talking, sharing, learning, healing circles. There's many different types of these circles, because I think that at this point that as we move forward, it's so important that we learn to speak and visit with each other as human beings. And so in this circle, we have people from all over Mother Earth. So we have somebody that comes in from Thailand, so they have to get a chance to share. We have other people coming in from various places in Europe, or from Fiji, or from various indigenous First Nations here in the Americas, or other relatives who are now emerging. I think another great thing that's happening, I'm seeing, we began working on in 2003 to really deal with this whole idea of cultural appropriation, is now you have these grandmothers' circles of Europe emerging. And these are indigenous women of Europe who are going back and really reclaiming their relationship to Mother Earth as it has always been there until, the whole thing about they call that they burned everybody up. What do they call that thing?
Oh, when they burned the witches. Yeah.
What's it called? It had a name for it.
Inquisition. No.
Inquisition. Yeah. And so,
yeah. Yes.
So we can
of the witches.
Right. So we can see that the indigenous peoples of Europe had the very same archetypical symbols, and the sacred tree, and the sacred circle, all these things. And of course, you see with the Inquisition, and even before that, with the coming of the Romans, you see how the European relatives were really every attempt was made to disconnect them from their indigenous roots, but they remained. That's what's so incredibly powerful. So you see the Frisians, who are in both Germany and in Netherlands, lowlands people, they're rising. You see in France other indigenous people going back and reclaiming their indigenous languages. That's not to say they're no longer French, but saying they're becoming all of who they are, which even goes deeper than that. It takes us clear back to Africa. And that's really difficult sometimes for people to conceive, that how could we begin in one little beginning together, all together, at that beginning that has no beginning. We're already there. We're part of it. The consciousness we have right now that we're sharing was already within the seed of creation from the very beginning, and that's us. And we're just rediscovering it. That's what I like.
That's so true. Yeah. It's a great rediscovery too.
Yes.
It's it's already hard. We say it's hard. We're hardwired for love.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes we just need a little reset, like you have to reboot your computer.
Yes.
Feel like the program to kick in again, because a bit of a virus comes in and it gets all scratchy and your computer doesn't work anymore, and you go bang, hard reset, hard boot, we call it.
Yes.
It's funny how they even call it a reboot. So that's sort of what's happening now, just so we can come back to this hardwired for love and let that be our sort of fundamental driver.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of like when your computer has been invaded by all these viruses, and you got to get one of those systems that clean.
Yeah, the virus cleaner.
They clean out the computer, and all of a sudden, wow, I didn't understand that. I didn't see that. How in the world did I go along with that? Because we've been so conditioned from the time we've been small. And now all of a sudden, I can understand people are frightened, because it's like if all you knew was the harsh, cold winter here in Canada, and it's going to be very harsh and cold, and it can go on for days and days and days and days, and it's just white, cold snow. And then all of a sudden, there comes that first spring storm. And warm air will come over the Rockies, and all of a sudden it'll be dramatically changed. Warm winds come, the snow melts, and all of a sudden those streams, which if all you knew was the winter, you thought were solid, they become rushing water, and taking with it anything in that stream that is refuse. It takes and cleans that stream out. Even if a little tiny seed falls in a crack in a stone, it'll break the stone open. And so here we are, and people are saying this is the end of the world. Yes, it is the end of the winter. Yes, it is the end of that world. But this is the new world. This is the springtime. This is going to be the emergence of things we've never seen before, ever dreamed before, ever imagined before. Because all we've known is this other world for many years. Some have known it less than others, and those that have known it less, they have great value to help us, guide us back to that relationship we need to have with Mother Earth and our beloved relatives as a human family.
Just want to rest in that one for a bit. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Chief Phil Lane, it's been a great honor and pleasure to have you here today with us, with the One Earth Live global community. And I want to thank you again for all your work, for all your great dedication to really uplifting the world. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. And I just have one thing to say is,
please,
one little thing. If there's any quality that you see in me that's admirable, you couldn't see it unless you had it yourself. If there's any thoughts you say, well, that's a good thought. If you didn't have the thought yourself, you wouldn't see it in me or hear it and understand it in me. So we're just mirrors, that's all. I'm just a mirror back. You're a mirror. We're mirrors to each other. And I just want to make my mirror as good, as beautiful as possible. Because sometimes my mirror could not be so nice. It's good. Thank you. You can say that. It could be better.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Very good.
Well, thank you. I'm Chris Decker from Uplift, signing off for another wonderful interview session with the spiritual lecture series. And we'll see you all again for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
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 Namaste.
Welcome
to the Global Days of Unity.
From the minute that I heard about Global Days of Unity, I understood that it was the thing for this time. The incredible coming together of people, music, song, prayer, that it's like a massive infusion of energy into consciousness, into the world. And what I love about it is it's completely accessible by anyone, anywhere. And let's create that togetherness and that cohesion third weekend of every month.
Deep inhale to the center.
Today at this session, we have a wonderful panel, wonderful presenters.
It brings together a unity that I don't think has ever really truly been done correctly. And just learning about the initiative makes my heart warm.
Put our thought into it and put intention into it, it can just be so powerful and can become so huge and have such a big impact.
I think what inspires me the most about the Global Days of Unity initiative is the experimental aspect of it, right? Like, this thing has never been done before. We've tried so many different things. We haven't tried people coming together with a sense of intention and joy. Let's try something new. Let's see what humanity can be. And I'm excited about that possibility.
If we send out love, then the world responds with love. So in Global Days of Unity, just imagine the consequence of a large number of people sending out wonderful thoughts of love, peace, and harmony, because we can change this planet just by the thinking of those wonderful thoughts. And in community, we re-empower each other, but we can also empower the world.
I want to invite you
The third weekend of every month.
Let us be together.
To the Global Days of Unity.
Welcome home.